Welcome to the Self for Millions show. We've got a special guest here today, Mike Mitchell. And Mike and I known each other for several years. And the great thing is we worked hand in hand as you know, you all know my passion is to help business owners build a business that they can sell for millions of dollars. That's why we're called Sell for Millions. And Mike had a long-term client that has been working with Mike, the one we're talking, mutual client we're talking about. That, how long did you work with them? Like 13 years?
13 years. Yeah, they were
13
one of
years.
my first clients.
So one of his first clients did just a great job helping this firm. We made and we'll be having the owners on the show shortly as well, talking about really how they were able to successfully sell. But they sold for multiple millions of dollars. I worked with them for the last couple of years, getting things ready, and ultimately to the successful transaction. So Mike is a leadership coach. And Mike, just tell us about your business, some of the things you've done. I know, we have another transaction that we're working on now of another company that you've helped. So I have a ton of respect for you, know your work. So tell us a little bit about your business and kind of your how you help people and your focus.
Thanks. Appreciate that, Brian. Yeah, I've been in this business for 13 years now, and started out as an Air Force officer, doing project management on weapon system development programs. And the military taught me from a very early age, right, that my technical skills were irrelevant if I couldn't lead people.
Interesting.
And as I grew through my career, I found that ultimately it was my leadership skills that made the difference in the things that I was
How
doing.
long were you in the Air Force?
I spent 10 years active duty.
And if you don't mind, what rank did you achieve? What was your final rank?
I exited as a captain.
Oh, well, congratulations. That's, do that in 10 years is, it obviously it shows your leadership ability, what they thought of you, and congratulations on that. And thank you for serving, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And again, it was a wonderful laboratory, wonderful opportunity to learn. And so as I grew through my career, I came to realize just how important leadership skills are in what we do.
Absolutely.
And so in 2006 timeframe, I decided to get out of running organizations and get into helping people who do. And so oddly enough, most of my experience was in much larger corporations and businesses.
Okay.
Obviously the Air Force is quite a big business.
And a little bit of bureaucracy there.
Just a little bit, right?
Learn a little bit about that.
I like to laugh about the fact, right? I'm part of the $400 hammer.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
Anyway, but so as I launched into business, I started focusing on helping small business owners figure out how to build and grow their business. Most entrepreneurs have a great idea, right? Or have a good idea of who their client is, what they need to do for their client, the products that they need to produce, but don't necessarily have an understanding of the infrastructure that it takes to actually build and grow a thriving organization.
And lead themselves out of the business, right? So it's not dependent on them.
Quite often, right? Many times, right, the first sign that I have an opportunity to talk with someone is the business owner says, I'm a slave to my business.
Sure.
And I hate to hear that, because the reality is most people get into business not to be a slave. They actually get into business to not be a slave to somebody else.
Absolutely. And they make it worse.
They make it worse. Absolutely. Right. And so I like to go in and help business owners figure that out. And most oftentimes it does start quite often with their leadership skills. And what kind of skills do they not have? Because most entrepreneurs haven't had any sort of training or education in that at all. They're good technicians at doing the service that they provide, but not necessarily has anybody invested in helping them learn and grow leadership.
They're kind of like the E-Myth, Sarah loved to bake pies, and all of a sudden she's baking pies for a living and finds it isn't quite as much fun anymore, because there's other things you have to do other than just baking pies.
So, there you go. And Brian, it's funny you mentioned that book. I don't know how many dozens of copies of that book I've given away, right? And worked with business owners for that very principle. How do you teach them the multiple hats that they have to wear? How do you build structure and process in ways that helps them get to a place that they're no longer enslaved to their business?
So how do you help them recognize their leadership? And let's talk about you have a program that you take people through that you is it a 14-week program, I believe?
Yeah, as a matter of
Um,
fact, over the course of my business, I found a leadership model that I just really love. It's called the Leadership Challenge. It's
okay.
based on a book written by Jim Kouzes and Barry Posner. The first edition was written back in '88. The
Wow.
book is now in its
Was
sixth edition.
proven.
Yeah, it's sixth edition. It keeps getting better with more relevant examples and more timely information. They continue to develop their research. And I found that model has been the central tool that I've used from when I was a line manager through now in my practice
Okay.
as a tool for coaching leadership skills. And so I've been doing that one-on-one with leaders ever since I started my business in 2006. And last year, one of my clients asked me if I would be willing to take that content and apply it to a group of leaders within their organization.
Outstanding.
And
Duplicating themselves. So that's being a leader, developing other leaders.
exactly. And so they were happy with what I had been able to do one-on-one with a few leaders in the firm, and so then asked me to do this in a group setting. And so we developed it into a group platform. And then subsequently, I thought, well, if I can do this for a group inside of a company, why can't I do this as a online cohort, right, for people from a number of companies at the same time?
So
So
let
for
me ask you, that was about a year ago?
yeah, about a year ago was when that
Um,
started coming
has
up.
the business grown since that time? I mean, what's been the kind of the tangible results out of that?
Oh yeah, well they're certainly seeing. I would
Not to
say that
put you on the spot, but
no,
I'm a
they're
numbers guy.
the
Can't measure
business
it,
is the
can't tell
business
it.
is definitely growing. Okay, it was, I think the firm had 18 people in the firm. They're up to 22.
Wow,
Um, their total revenues
impressive.
are growing.
How many did they take through the program, through the
We
cohort?
ended up taking the entire organization through the program.
Smart.
Yeah, they realized that ultimately, even for their individual contributors, developing those leadership skills significantly leveraged their success with their clients. Happens to be an architecture firm.
Okay.
And so it leveraged success with their clients. They were more successful at guiding their clients through the process. Certainly we're seeing bottom line results because of the streamlining of the process and not having as much rework as they got their clients to cooperate.
What did the owner learn about his own personal leadership? Because I've seen a lot of surveys that people do where you
Yep.
evaluate your leaders.
Yep.
What did he learn through the process?
Well, several things that come out of this
You
for
kind of
everybody to
squirmed on
take.
that one.
Well, it's hard to be exactly specific what he learned because we had an interesting transition in the middle of this. Ultimately, one of the principals of the firm passed away
Oh no.
when we're in the middle of this. He had a motorcycle accident, and he was the charismatic leader of the firm.
Oh boy.
And he had learned a number of things. He's a hard driving kind of guy, right? And learning to be more encouraging of people, to connect with people on a deeper, more intimate level was some of the things that he was starting to learn and see positive impact in his organization by virtue of that. He had no difficulty casting a vision and getting things done, but he was burning people out in the process of doing it.
Sure.
So what he leveraged was long-term viability of maintaining a team.
So what do you see as the top three? Our audience here at Sell for Millions are business builders, people that want to build a significant business, create a legacy,
Yep.
ultimately sell it for millions. What are the top three leadership skills that you see as non-negotiable, man? If you're going to do it, like say the client you worked with that you helped,
Yep.
Sell this firm for more than $5 million.
Yep.
And so what are those top three that you can leave our audience with that they absolutely must develop?
Well, number one is absolutely you have to model the way, right? We have to be clear and unambiguous about what our value system is that guides the way that we operate our business, the way that we get things done, and the things that are important to us. And we need
Walk in the walk, right?
and then we've got to walk that out as well as then hold people accountable to operating in accordance with that operating system that we've laid out. If you can't model the way, the rest of the practices are largely irrelevant.
Let me ask you, how do you measure that? I mean, obviously that's a challenge. Like I even hear that.
Yep.
I mean, I have a few staff people right now. I've got actually just had a staff meeting this morning,
Yep.
and the responsibility that you have, right?
Yep.
It's like taking your game
Hmm.
to the level so that you're basically worthy to be followed.
Yeah.
So how do you measure? And like even saying that just rose me up, man. I mean,
Well,
so
you can measure it in several ways. First of all, there is a 360 survey tool that goes along with this program that you can take, and we can have observers around you talk about the frequency with which you demonstrate specific behaviors that are
okay.
related to the 5 exemplary practices that underlie this content.
So
And
it's kind
when
of
we
like when
look,
you go to the doctor and they ask you if you feel safe too, right? I mean, the people
yeah,
have to feel safe giving 360 feedback. That's what
absolutely.
evaluation.
Correct. And so it's an interesting dilemma. Do you work on creating a safer environment before you do the survey, or do you do the survey in order to learn what your leadership deficiencies are in order to create a positive environment?
Do you make that call?
I sit down with the client and we try to come up with the best possible
Okay.
solution we think that is the right starting point moving forward. Is it always perfect? And the answer is no,
Right.
right? But that's part of the art of leadership, I think.
Absolutely.
But when you look at how frequently do you talk about the things that are important to you, Brian, right? What are your core values? And how often do you ask for feedback, right? Are you asking for feedback on a weekly basis? Hey, am I living my core values?
I'll tell you what, that's the number one lesson I've learned in my life. I'll go back to years ago when I was a high school football coach, and it's easy to basically, I pretty much ran the offense, and something I started implementing my last few years, and I wish I'd have been doing it the whole time, was you have film study with the guys in the room on Saturdays after a Friday night game, and what I started to do was ask for feedback first. Hey, were you guys ready? We're going to look at you on film,
Right.
and we're going to be,
Right.
everybody in the world can see when you took wrong angles and all this kind of stuff. But what we want to know as coaches, did we do our job this week preparing you?
Right.
Did you see what we thought we would see? All those different things. And I will tell you, when you ask for that, I mean, you hear things sometimes you don't want to hear, but
Absolutely.
you got that buy-in, man.
Yep.
And I can tell you that the relationship that I have with players over the years, all that stuff totally changed after I started doing that. So that I know from real life, and then obviously with being in leadership in corporations and then running my own firm here too. Yeah, you got to ask for that 360 and how can I help you
Exactly.
achieve
And
more?
the and the way that you model taking that feedback is exactly the way you're going to get team members who are willing to take feedback from you. And leaders are learners. If you're not learning all the time, then you're not really leading. And the only way that we learn is by getting feedback that shows us the blind spots that we're not able to see ourselves.
Can you anything else on kind of walking the walk? I don't mean to, that's what I'm calling this principle.
Again,
And
the
you know,
key with it is, again, being clear on your values, making sure that you're holding yourself accountable to walking out those values, and holding the rest of the team accountable as well.
and then getting that feedback so that you know where you're doing. So
Correct.
what's the next principle? What's the next thing that that entrepreneur that's going to have that $5-10 million payout from a leadership standpoint? What's the next thing?
Well, I think that inspiring a shared vision is just absolutely critical, right? You've got to get everybody aligned to want to go where you want to go. People do obviously work for a paycheck, right? It's
Absolutely.
fundamental, okay? But at the end of the day, people want to be part of something meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
And it's proven time and again, the research shows people want to know that they're part of something that's bigger than they are, that it's going someplace, that it's growing in some way, right? They want to be part of something. And great leaders, I think, have to inspire a shared vision in their followers.
Let me
And
ask you: do you
sure.
do any personality testing, Myers-Briggs, anything?
I happen to use a tool called the Keirsey, which is a derivative of the Myers-Briggs. I'm
Okay.
certainly Myers-Briggs, trained guy, and I do DISC and 2 or 3 others, but the Keirsey is the primary one that I use.
And do you find that certain personality types, obviously, it's easier for them to be that boom,
Oh,
charge, inspiring learners, and then others, it's like, oh my God, this is
great.
the hardest thing I ever got to do.
Great question, Brian. The reality is what I find is that with the temperament assessment, right, there are aspects in all of us that make certain aspects of leadership easier or more natural for us.
Okay.
And yeah, when you've got somebody that happens to be an extroverted intuitive, right, who sees the future, right, loves to talk, they're great vision casters. They really are, okay? And it comes very, very naturally to them.
But their flip side
is oftentimes they're hard drivers, right?
Yep.
They're pushed to get results and sometimes lose touch with how do they take care of people in the process, right? That the rational and, you know, intuitive thinker in them drives and pushes, but that lack of a feeler causes them to be in a place that says they don't always think about the people in the process.
You know, I'm an ENFP.
Okay.
So,
Champion.
exactly. So the ability to cast vision, the ability to, let's get rolling.
Yep.
Where I really struggle is the steps to get there.
Absolutely.
I need those people that can follow through on my vision.
That's correct.
Check the box off with the checklist because, I get to number 3 and I'm on the next thing already.
There you go. That's the challenge with perceivers, right? We don't want that structure and routine. We want to create it. We want to move on to the next. And but that doesn't mean that there's a perfect temperament for leaders. It just says that the way that we're wired makes some aspects of leadership easier and more natural for each of us.
So it really sounds like your process is so much about just self-discovery.
Absolutely.
What I'm great at, how others perceive me, just doing that work, and it's not all fun, right? I mean,
it's not.
Getting evaluated, I mean, it sucks. I mean, There's no other way to describe it, but it's effective, and really, if people are going to build something significant, it's non-negotiable.
That's correct.
Have to do it.
Absolutely.
So what's the third nugget of information?
The third one is being able to enable others to act. Okay, we sort of hit on this earlier. Many entrepreneurs have a difficult time getting out of the way and letting their people get things done.
Sure.
If you're ever going to get to a place where your business is of any real value, it needs to be at a place that says, okay, you don't have to be there every day to make value be created.
Right.
And enabling others to act, being able to empower, being able to delegate, to do that effectively, right? To first have the heart of delegation, to actually be able to let go, right? And then the art of delegation, right?
Let me jump in and help you.
And then the art of delegation, being able to do it in effective ways, truly equipping people, right, so that they can indeed succeed at doing those things, right? I've found is a tremendous bottleneck for especially entrepreneurial leaders who got there because they were doing it all, right? There isn't a job in the company that they haven't done.
Right, which is good because they know it.
Correct.
But their whole job is to create the process to get themselves out of it.
Correct. The hardest job is to replace the person who just got promoted to the next job up.
Exactly.
Right? Because they think they know how to do your job and they want to keep doing your job. And teaching leaders not to do that is a challenge.
Yeah, it's interesting right now. We're going through in my company where we're writing down all of our processes, right?
Awesome.
Every single thing that we do, step by step.
Yep.
How it's done, with the idea of, if I got to teach somebody tomorrow, here it is, here's the starting point. If it's software related, here's the login, here's what you do, here's the first step.
Exactly.
And it is a real tough exercise.
It certainly is.
To do it because, there's so many things you just do, you don't even know you're doing it. And now you got to write it in as a step.
That's correct. And Brian, leadership is the same way. Okay. One of the reasons that the program that I take leaders through is to help them recognize where their natural talents are, right? Those things where they are unconsciously competent from a leadership standpoint.
Sure.
Say, why would you have to teach them about that? Well, because they need to be able to teach that to somebody else. And it tends to be when we're unconsciously competent at something, we have no idea that we're doing it or why we're doing it. And when you can bring that to the forefront, it gives you the ability to now teach somebody else who currently is incompetent at that job or that skill from a leadership standpoint, how to do that. It's vitally important you pull that out, and getting that, what's going on up there, the why behind the process, is a tough challenge.
Well, and here's the other interesting thing. I'm a firm believer, and I actually teach this all the time, that when you really want to get good at something, you teach it.
Correct.
You go through the steps,
Yep.
here's how to do it. So when you're doing this process, by the time you're teaching somebody else, you're actually probably mastering it
That's
and,
correct.
and getting great at, which is good, but it's also like, oh, so we're actually, we're consciously making the decision in our company to develop those processes with the thought of teaching it first, hoping it adds to our mastery. I mean, that's actually
Absolutely.
one of my values around it, where if
Yep.
I teach it, I can master it. So I'm actually, as part of our organization growing, that's what we're doing with it.
There you go.
Kind of
And
cool.
that makes the business
So you
scalable.
confirmed it, man. All these now, my staff, when they watch this, they're going to be like, "Oh my gosh, we're doing this for great reasons." So that's awesome.
There is so much validity to that because it's the key to making your business scalable.
So tell me how people, if they're liking what they hear from you, they want to engage you, they want to work with you. How do we reach out? How do we get in touch with you? Obviously, we'll put the information below here on the videos, your website, stuff like that. Tell us how, and can you take on more clients? I mean,
Oh, the answer is absolutely, right. Especially with this leadership challenge, this online opportunity, there are plenty of ways to get engaged, and I've certainly have capacity
so
as
you can
well
work
as
with people all over the world because it's virtual.
it's
Right.
virtual, right? So it's easy to execute. And so yeah, my company is called ML3 Solutions, and as you said, you'll put my website on there,
Yep.
and it's ML the number 3 solutions.com. And go to the website. There's links there to be able to shoot me emails, telephone numbers on there as well. And my process always starts with a dialogue, right? I
Yep.
don't know what your problems and challenges are until we've had a chance to have some conversation about it.
And if they're a fit, right?
And
I
if
mean,
they're a
maybe they're
fit,
already mastered the things that you're teaching.
right?
Probably
My
not.
website talks about the process for deciding whether you're gonna hire me to engage you or not,
Okay.
right? And the first one is let's spend some time hanging out together, talking to one another. And if you like me, great. And if you don't, no harm, no foul, right?
Absolutely. Well, Mike, this information is golden. It's something that all of us entrepreneurs struggle with. I mean, it's like, developing our own leadership skills, walking the walk along with, being able to delegate, kind of work ourselves out of it and
Yep,
not take it back because it's a skill,
it
right?
certainly
I mean,
is.
even when we
Absolutely.
see somebody not do it as good as they need to, I mean, how do we handle it, right? We've got to be able
Correct.
to do that. So, I appreciate the wisdom here. Thank you for being on the show. I can tell the audience that I know this stuff works. Seen it happen. Again, we'll have the owners of the company that we helped with a successful transaction a few months ago. It was more than a $5 million transaction, so they're very happy. Um, Mike was there almost from the start. Well, that business was around 20 years. You
Correct.
worked with him for the last 13. So obviously, a big part of their success and what they accomplished. Because I know when we were working together, I mean, it was a lot about what you taught them.
Yep.
So you really added tremendous value in there.
I appreciate that, Brian. Again, for me, that's the ultimate success, just as it is for you, right? How can we help our clients take something, the asset that they've got, create real lasting value in a way that they can exit successfully and do very well from the sale of their asset?
And they've certainly done it.
They have done that.
And the great thing is the stuff that you've put together, the processes and the leadership is really transferred over to the new company that
Oh yeah, absolutely.
it's not taking a step backwards. It's continuing to grow, continuing to do well, which again it shows that the foundation was built correctly on sound leadership and principles because all the employees have stayed.
Yep.
You took them through that, and now, with the additional resources of a larger corporation and some other technology and some other things, it's continuing to actually grow at a really
Absolutely.
nice rate. I mean,
Absolutely.
and it's good. So because obviously the positive transaction, what I always tell people is it's really 3 to 5 years down the road. Are the owners glad they sold? Did it
Yep.
work out for them? And did the buyers, are they glad
Absolutely.
that they did it? And I can tell you, a lot of people think when people are evaluating businesses, they're looking at the financials, just the profit and loss and the balance sheet and all that, which, yes, they're looking at that, but they're looking at the leadership. They're looking at the
Correct.
team. They're looking at the staff. In many companies, that's where the value is. That's the engine that's driving it. So
Correct.
again, from everything that Mike teaches and what you learned here has been transferred into a multiple $1 million exit for a company. And then actually we're working on another one right now that I am anticipating a very positive exit as well, that Mike helped with several years for. And so I know it works. Mike, I appreciate you being on the show. I hope we get a chance to work together a lot in the future on
Absolutely. Looking
additional
forward to it, Brian.
things. We've got this, little bit of a track record going. Let's keep it rocking and rolling and add a lot of value to people. So thank you very much. And, audience out there, reach out to them. If you're looking to improve your leadership, if you're looking to grow your company, if you're looking to grow your staff, all these things we talked about here, Mike's the guy, man, to make it happen. And I've seen it, and you'll be happy with the results. Thank you, Mike, for joining us.
Thank you, Brian.
All right.